The UK is already dead, folks. I got out some advice for you. If you live in the UK, move. Move to America, hell, move to Mexico. You're going to be better off here pretty soon. I decided to make this video because the United Kingdom Supreme Court ruled that Muslims can no longer protest the teaching of gay and trans propaganda in schools. And that's kind of funny, because here you have one toxic ideology opposing another toxic ideology, and they're not even allowed to talk to each other. If some gay or queer person goes, you're evil, Islamic person, in the United Kingdom, they can be fined, they can end up in jail. If the Islamic person does the same thing, they could maybe be fined or end up in jail, but Islam is even more of a protected class in the UK than gay people and such. The thing is, what everybody needs to learn is that phobia is good. Islamophobia is good for you. Homophobia is good for you. And a lot of people don't know what phobia means. Phobia does not mean hatred. Phobia does not mean fear. It means to beware, which is a different context. Why should you beware Islamic people? Because they want to kill you. Why should you beware gay people, at least around your children? Because they can corrupt your children. Here's two facts, okay? Islamic random people go to just killing innocent civilians all the time. You should be afraid of dying. Another thing that nobody really wants to admit on the left, because all the left does is lie, is sometimes people can be born with certain mental disorders that lead them towards homosexuality. But guess what? Homosexuality is also a sexually transmitted disease. A overwhelming majority of homosexual adults were sexually abused or raped, molested as children by homosexual predators. Now, gays are no more than at the far overestimation 5% of the population. The amount of overrepresentation in child sexual predators that are gay that target same-sex victims, way more than 5%. Okay? Now, another reason is the gay lifestyle is more dangerous than a heterosexual lifestyle. They're far overrepresented in AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases like hepatitis. They're overrepresented in drug addiction and habitual drug use. And none of these facts mean I hate gay people, and none of these facts mean I fear gay people. These are facts, and how you feel about these facts says more about you than it does about me. These are truths that people, even homosexual people, should beware. You should beware your vulnerability to sexually transmitted disease, drug addiction, your risk of being raped or abused if you are homosexual. You are at a higher risk just by being one, just by being around them to a lesser extent, but yes, that too. None of that comes from a place of hatred. It's a fact. Now, Islam does teach people to do horrible things. Now, everyone says, oh yeah, if you read in the Bible, it does teach people to do horrible things. That is true. But look around you and tell me how many Christian militant groups are completely destabilizing entire countries, entire regions of the world, entire continents, killing people by the hundreds of thousands, butchering women and children, chucking gay people off of roofs, stoning them to death with rocks, slitting their throats with knives. You look at all that and tell me, where is the comparison? Now, you can't say to people anymore, oh, you're a racist, because Muslims are represented in every single ethnic group of the world, and some of the most violent and destructive and terrorist attack prone ethnic groups of Muslims are Southeast Asian, not even Middle Eastern. So this isn't even a brown people thing, necessarily, although it is. And these groups are opposed to each other, and both groups are dangerous to themselves, to each other, and to the rest of the public at large. And you are not allowed to discuss that. You are not allowed to beware these people. The most recent terrorist attack in the United Kingdom, only 2 people died. They were 2 people who were on their way to give a presentation about how bewaring migrants is wrong, when they were violently stabbed to death by a random migrant who had been arrested for being a terrorist 2 years ago, had been given a sentence exceeding 10 years, and a judge had decided, nah, we're just going to let him go. And within a few weeks, he was killing people. The United Kingdom is over, folks. Leave now. It's a failed state. Now, everyone is going to say, oh, well, the economy is generally fine. The standard of living is still generally fine. Things aren't as good as they used to be, but, we'll bounce back. No, you won't. You have an ideology that illegalizes opposition to it in charge of your country. It is illegal to resist leftist propaganda in the United Kingdom. It is a crime where you can be sent to prison to resist leftist propaganda. And the problem is, due to the mass influx of somewhat uncivilized groups from around the world, and they aren't just one color of brown or one color of this or one color of that. In fact, they're radicalizing white people in your country too. So it's not a color thing, but an ideology thing. Islamic migrants into your country have actually completely changed the demographics of your prison system. And so opposition to their ideology, being arrested and being a known opposer to their ideology, is basically a death sentence if you go to prison. And all the prison systems of the United Kingdom are overpopulated with Muslim offenders. That's not a good thing. That's like in America, where black people are drastically overrepresented in prison. If you are a known hyper-racist against black people, and you end up in general population of a maximum security prison with them, they are going to hurt you. That's just a fact of the matter. And a lot of people are wondering, like, oh, why are there all these white supremacist groups in prison? Because whites are a minority in American prisons, and American prisons segregate themselves, the prisoners segregate themselves along racial lines. The Hispanics segregate with themselves. The blacks, who are by sheer numbers the strongest of any given group in prison, segregate themselves. And the whites, who are a tiny minority and in danger of these other racially segregated groups, have no choice but to segregate and protect themselves as well. And you would face that same kind of situation in the United Kingdom, where if there's anti-Muslim groups in prison and you're white, you might want to join them, because a lot of times you don't have to be gang affiliated. You don't have to be a racist of any kind, but you go in, you're going to have to act as if you are one for your own health and safety. These are the kind of facts that are ugly. Nobody wants to know that if you go to prison, you have to be racist for survival reasons. Well, maybe it's not so much that you have to be racist, but you have to be phobic. You have to beware. You have to put yourself in a position of least risk. Segregating yourself from certain elements of homosexual society is in your best interest. Segregating yourself from certain elements of Islamic society is in your best interest. You don't have to hate them. You don't even have to fear them. But you must beware them. And nobody wants to admit this, because leftism is extreme. You must either subjugate yourself to, suck the dick of, prostrate yourself to, and bare your open, unprotected throat to protected groups, or you are evil and must be destroyed. Leftism is the only political ideology where out-group preference is the norm, What a lot of people want to call racism is just in-group preference. Muslims prefer each other, Christians prefer each other, whites prefer each other, blacks prefer each other. People who play one kind of video game prefer each other than if a group likes a different video game. It's called in-group preference. It's normal. It's kinship behavior. It's in our DNA. Leftists say that you must expose yourself to the people who hate you, and you must hate yourself to be good. And you'll notice that everywhere you look in leftists, they're infighting. Lesbians must want to date transgender male to female trans people who still have a penis. You must suck that feminine penis, lesbian, or you are a bigot. That's what the difference between trans exclusionary radical feminists, the actual female supremacists, versus the intersectional feminists, who are more actually racial supremacists than they are necessarily gender supremacists. And they will target any group that is of the smallest minority and proclaim that smallest minority group as the most important. That's why there's all this shit about ableist this, transgender that, queer, lesbian this, blah, 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 blah. It's what's called the oppression hierarchy, or that's not exactly what it's called. The progressive stack, I believe, is the phrase, which is shaped like a pyramid, because the smallest minority, the smallest pinpoint, is at the top, and the majority, the norm of society, is considered the least important, the most debased. You see, and when real virtue is phrases like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, leftist ideology would tell you it's the exact opposite. An elite, extreme minority is infinitely more important than 95% of society. And they'll harm you for it. They'll kill you for it. They'll take away your rights for it. They'll take all your money. They'll destroy your career. They'll break up your family. They'll harass you day and night if you say otherwise. You need to realize that all leftists are terrorists, and basically your only hope to resist them is that their completely illogical ideology will destroy itself when all their other individual minority protected special interest groups start attacking each other. Like gays, being an extreme minority of society, being put at odds with Muslims, which are actually not that much of a minority anymore in England, which is part of the reason why your culture is dead and you should leave. If you would like to return to liberal norms, you should move to America. A lot of people say, there's no real left wing in America. That's not true. America is the only country left in the Western world that has anything even close to a right wing. Technically, if you actually look at what real civics and politics are, American Republicans are center leftists. And American Democrats are deranged fucking psychopaths. It is the same in the UK, only your right wing, your Brexit parties, and your Tories are far leftists, and your left wing parties are raving, destructive, psychotic lunatics. That's what you have to look forward to. You have no alternative. You have no austerity. You have no ability to protect your culture. You have no rights. You have no recourse. You are nothing but a victim if you stay there. And the person most likely to victimize you is not a Muslim, is not a queer, is not a trans person. It's a person who looks just like you, maybe goes to your church, or drinks at the same pub as you, who just happens to be wearing a yellow fucking shirt and carries around a billy club and a gay little fucking round constable hat, and your next door neighbor is going to be the one who beats your ass and sends you to jail and takes away your rights, brands you as a culture traitor, and then you die in prison. That's what you have to look forward to. Good luck.